I adore Bridget. Like, she is absolutely so palpable on Irish soil. But I really feel connecting to that warm, nurturing mother goddess energy had to happen first before I could springboard into anything else. And I believe we don't choose our deities. We come in with that natural affinity towards them. I don't think you can discover many aspects until you have a sound working knowledge and a sense of comfort and familiarity and reverence for your deity, and that is a daily practice no matter who you work with. This is what made me feel, oh my goodness, it is exactly the same energy that is there. It's just looking at the whole lot of our existence of life and death at the same time and giving her a role, a place there, mother to us all, hence Maman Brigitte.
Hello and welcome to the Pagan Portal Podcast, produced by Moonbooks Publishing and presented by me, Rachel Patterson. I am very pleased today to welcome fellow author Pauline Breen. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Absolutely thrilled to be here.
Now, from your accent, we're Ireland, aren't we?
We are, for sure. We're on the Emerald Isle. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful. Can we start by you telling us a little bit about yourself?
I've grown up in Ireland. I was exposed to the Christian and Catholic influence growing up in Ireland. I think I always was hungry for a spiritual connection that didn't quite make its way to me, which in turn, I guess, led me to going and visiting places that I felt had unknowingly a strong female energy, most notably Glastonbury. So going back, I've always been a curious child, a very sensitive child and interested in spirituality, which I really tried to make that work with the Catholic Church, and it didn't. I never felt I could excel. I never felt like I belonged. I'm very much someone that lives in my head, and education was important to me. I have a degree in languages and a master's in languages, and it's being career driven really didn't seem to fit the stereotype of a woman, which is what I very much felt growing up in Ireland. And even though I was trying to make my connection to something spiritual, the only thing that was on offer was the Catholic religion. And I always knew that I would never be able to excel as a woman in that sphere. So that's really, I have an interest in languages. I have a huge interest in our pagan past in Ireland. I do feel, thankfully, that it is becoming more and more spoken about. So much been done recently to revive that and to honour that and to acknowledge the pain that went with it being lost and with it being out of reach for a lot of us. I grew up in the 90s and it just, it was the Catholic way or no way, because Catholicism had such an influence on education in primary school especially. So as part of this revival, this is where I feel, okay, you kind of have to go through that not belonging somewhere in order to feel, this is it and this is my time.
The light bulb moment.
Yeah, it is. And it's wonderful to see all the work that has been done, good work. Like I'm referring to the likes of Laura O'Brien in Ireland, who has committed her life to really giving the truth and saying it as it is. And I guess within that, I have found my place for the first time, and it is with the divine feminine, which really wasn't encouraged in Ireland either. And that weirdly came to me through Glastonbury, through my visiting of Glastonbury and my connection there. And I think since I found that hit, since I connected to the divine feminine, it has been like, oh my God, all the time that I've spent not really feeling like I belonged in spiritual Ireland, just because the information wasn't given and practices weren't spoken about. And now it's like, oh great, okay, I get this, and this is what I'm doing, and this is finally me. And this has led me on such a journey, because the divine feminine, as we know, has so many faces, so many names, and to feel her in a pagan context from Ireland has been such an emotional time for me, because she really was deliberately eradicated and out of the reach for us. And it was not having that role model as a girl growing up that really angered me and made me feel I didn't have a place here. I don't know if any of that is making sense, but
it's all making sense. It is absolutely all making sense. I think it's part of the journey. It is part of the journey.
Sure. And where do you start? I adore Bridget. Like, she is absolutely so palpable on Irish soil. But I really feel connecting to that warm, nurturing mother goddess energy had to happen first before I could springboard into anything else. And I find myself now going through Maman Brigitte and working with Brigantia, and where this is going to lead me will constantly evolve and change also. But I wouldn't have been ready for even acknowledging Maman Brigitte or Brigantia so many years ago, because I didn't have that anchoring in the mother goddess as how she presented at that time. She's always been here, but being able to speak about her, being able to write about her without that cellular memory of being persecuted or being ridiculed or vilified. This is wonderful, because it's I very much believe we come forth in life at a specific point of time for a reason. And maybe my life choices in this lifetime wouldn't have been accepted or allowed in previous lifetimes. So now, I feel I just have her blessing to just get on with it, get on with your purpose. And I feel my purpose is to just show the various sides to Bridget, because outside the Catholic, it's Saint Bridget, okay, but even within the pagan, it's still in bulk. It's like what people most associate with her, and then showcase her in bulk, and then she's kind of gone for the rest of the year. But there is so much to her and so much depth that, all through the various cycles of the year, she is so present and so available to us all as we grow and change, and as we become more and develop on our spiritual journey. She is there honouring every flow of that, every cycle that we move through.
I'm not surprised you found the connection at Glastonbury, because Bridget is very strong there, isn't she? She is one of the key so energies.
To the feminine. It was so random. I do believe it happens at the right time, but I would have gone over to Glastonbury on average 3-4 times a year just for a weekend to have that hit. And I never knew why. And I went to a meditation in the Goddess House, and it was done with Danu, but it just came with Bridget so strongly. It was Bridget that replaced Danu in the meditation. And it was the very next day I signed up for the priestess training course with Maria and Brigantia, and the journey unfolded, but the work that we did with the goddess was up to ourselves. I mean, there's only so much a teacher can do, but it is up to you to cultivate that relationship. And it was during the 2 years of journeying with Bridget that I realized, oh my goodness, you have been here. You have tried to grab my attention for so long, but I just was unable to see it. And powerful. And I think each time I went, I was bringing a little bit back and bringing back more confidence to showcase her as the goddess, what she is. I mean, she is both. I really wanted at that time to vilify the Christian saint aspect of her, because there has been so much hurt with the Catholic Church, I think. But it wasn't to be. And I was just like, no, you're the same as them. If you start doing that, I am everything. Let people choose how to honour the different sides of her. And I was like, yes, of course. Who am I to say she is X only and not Y? She's both. And whatever way everybody connects to her is entirely up to them. But my work is showcasing the other sides also, and having that as an option, or understanding that with Maman Brigitte in general, as we all go through grief and death and watch our loved ones die, and as we let go of situations and we enter into a grieving process, that aspect of Bridget is very, very different. it under the guise of Maman Brigitte. Very different than the poetry or the muse that I call upon for Goddess. And even within Celtic Goddess Bridget, I sense her very differently when I'm ill and I need a healing aspect. She comes to me very, very differently. So she has so many faces, and that's what makes her so powerful, I think, and so special, really so special.
I think you're right. I think people do automatically associate her with Imbolc, don't they? Maybe through to Beltane, and then that's kind of it. But you've mentioned Maman Brigitte, so let's dive into her. How did you first discover Maman Brigitte? Because she seems initially to be worlds apart from Brigid.
That's a little old Catholic Ireland for sure. Yeah,
definitely.
It's right. It's just, I really, going back to my initial journey with Bridget, I actually first felt her energy outside the Catholic Church many years ago through the other world, through my fairy belief and connection. And I believe we don't choose our deities. We come in with that natural affinity towards them. But it was the same when I was penning my book, and it was just for me trying to find, I work with my head, so I needed to know her mythology and her lore as a way of getting a feel for who she is. And it was during that, researching her St. Fred in Wales and St. Bridget also in Glastonbury, that Maman Brigitte resurrected her head. And it was like, oh, this is really unusual, because I speak French also, and it's like, it means Mother Brigid, and okay, I'll research this when I finish my book. But honestly, I've never felt such a connection. I'd say I felt more of a connection to the lore of Maman Brigitte than I even did to the Celtic Mother Goddess Brigid. Yeah, it absolutely flowed. It was just like, I get this, I get what happened, I understand that she is, the Irish Brigid is part of the makeup of Maman Brigitte, and that happened because of so much history that happened with the slave trade, with indentured servitude, with all of that. But to answer your question, it's how I work, it's how my intuition works. I dream constantly about a certain aspect or a book or an idea, and it constantly crops up then. Even, it sounds so strange, but the voodoo hat, I just kept seeing it everywhere. I kept stumbling on different aspects of Irish history, being on the Caribbean. I'm like, okay, I really can't wait to research this. And then I can't wait to feel this energy in New Orleans. Because even with the Catholic point of Bridget, when I wanted to dismiss that, I ended up in Portugal and in her church, where it is said that her skull is present. And there was so much lava about getting there, between just taking a train for about 6 hours, not speaking a word of Portuguese, the church being locked, and then suddenly opening. And when I was standing in front of the skull, I had the same physical emotion run through my body as I did meeting the goddess for the first time. And I was like, okay, this is the same energy. This is my interpretation, is what I'm feeling. And it was the same with Maman Brigitte. The same core feeling is there, but it is different, because the need for her and the need of her people at that time was very different than what we needed in Ireland going back. So she presented herself by constantly nudge, and dreaming about her, which is essentially how I work anyway, and audio, waking up with ideas and with random words being spoken. It sounds a bit crazy, but until I start...
It sounds totally normal to me.
Great. But it stopped then. That nudge stopped until when I started reading and noting what I was learning. And yeah, it was just... Maman Brigitte is all about death. She is a dark goddess, a goddess of the cemetery, goddess of life on the eternal side. But actually, Bridget also had that aspect of her in Ireland as Psychopompus, the original keener in Ireland. It's just those aspects of Celtic Bridget weren't really allowed. You know, if we do associate them with other goddesses, we're going to vilify them, like the Morrigan or or whatever, we're going to just make them exclusively dark goddesses, and we're going to make Brigid exclusively goddess of returning light, and Saint Brigid the returning light of Christ. But within every mother goddess, there is death, birth, and rebirth. So all three do exist. It's just the qualities become more pronounced at different times. But Maman Brigitte is definitely an energy of survival, because that's what was needed at that time. And it's quite similar to what's happening now with gross displacement and mass immigration.
So you called her a dark goddess, and that word does tend to, I think it's misunderstood quite a lot, isn't it, the term dark goddess? What do you mean? What's your definition of dark goddess?
Like I say, my pain, if I can call it that, growing up was not having a role model and not having someone to honour what we go through on a human journey. And for me, even though I know that Brigid is different for inspiration for my writing or meditation or whatever than she is for healing, for that dark pain, and I'm talking ancestral pain, I'm talking my shadow that I know is there and I just don't really have the confidence to sit and to be with it. This is a side of Brigid that is there. She is with me in my perceived darkness, and that's why I call it that way, because it is perceived as dark, our deep ancestral pain, our human wounding, but it is also our power once we accept that as who we are. It's kind of gone back to the goddess of death, birth, and rebirth. All three are inherent in her. To deny aspects is denying who she is. And it's like the Catholic side of her. If I was to deny that, I'm denying all that she is. I don't want to honour her in that aspect, but it's okay for those that do.
But it's there.
Exactly. And all of our shadows and our wounding is there. That's why we're in life. It is to make peace with that, or to evolve from it, or to grow spiritually. And Maman Brigitte is really for that hard pain and that real soul destroying lament that we have. And I'm talking really serious dark stuff, because this is what she came from. She came from enforced slavery. She came from restriction, she came from abuse, she came from torture, from being ripped from families. And she evolved into this no-nonsense, just like, it is what it is. You are where you are. You either get on with it or you don't. And if you're not ready for it, that's fine. But give me a call when you are ready, and I will show you really where your darkness is and sit with you while you do your work. So that's my term of the dark goddess, and that's really how I work with that three energies now. The mother goddess through Bridget, the dark goddess through Maman Brigitte, and empowerment that can only come from sitting within the shadow with Brigantia. They're all faces of Bridget, but they're all for a different aspect of me and for everybody.
So Maman Brigitte is a lower, quite a different culture to Irish Brigid. Can you just give us a bit of a backstory about Maman Brigitte and what a lower is?
Well, I don't have any experience with the vodou tradition. I really want to make that clear, and I have no right to talk about it if I haven't studied it. My approach to writing about Maman Brigitte was coming directly from Bridget, for focusing on that half aspect of the makeup of Maman Brigitte, and the other half was Oya. Again, I've mentioned her in my book, but I haven't worked with Oya yet, and I haven't visited Western Africa yet to connect with that energy. So my understanding is similar. My understanding, and this is talking to people that do work with this energy, it is that it's almost like God and the angels and the archangels on the Catholic side. It's like Bondi, the Loa, and residing over I think there are three main groups of Loa, which are like spirits that intercede on behalf of Bondi or God or whatever you want to call that force. The Rada, meaning root, they were the slaves that were taken forcibly from Western Africa. The Petro, which are the ones that are probably depicted mostly in Hollywood movies as being violent against oppression. So you can understand where this was coming from. And then the deity, which is the realm of Maman Brigitte and her partner Baron. They're the two that they're like the archangels, I suppose, if I was to call it, if I was to try and draw an analogy to it. But they reside over that family or that house of spirits. And very similarly to Bridget, Bridget, as Catholic saint, is said to mind all of those on the periphery of life, homeless, those that have been abandoned, those in foster care, those separated from their mothers at the hands of the Catholic Church. And similarly, it is Maman Brigitte and Baron that gather up these spirits in death, that are wandering aimlessly, that have nobody to reclaim them, that have felt lost in life and are feeling lost in death, and they gather them up. So it's the same energy, but just from a different side of life on the opposite end of the continuum. This is what made me feel, oh my goodness, it is exactly the same energy that is there. It's just looking at the whole lot of our existence of life and death at the same time, and giving her a role, a place there, mother to us all, hence Maman Brigitte.
So you mentioned the Baron, and he's probably the one that most people will recognise because he's in films and television. But she's not so much hair. It does tend to be him, doesn't it? But they have that similar. In fact, the cover of your book has an amazingly powerful image of it. And the Baron has very similar facial makeup, artwork, artistry. Well, I'm not sure what you want to call it. Is that important, do you think, that look?
Oh, for sure. It's. I think when I was really discovering who she was and finding out she was the only white-skinned Loa with red hair, yes, this was enough indication. But other people say it's not true. She's dark-skinned. I don't know. But, I mean, every artist has the freedom to personify her and depict her as they wish. But yes, the sealed mouth was so intriguing for me, because if Bridget is part of Maman Brigitte and she is the goddess of everything, oratory, poetry, bardic storytelling, why is she depicted with her mouth shut? And similarly, Baron with the glass to look into the next world, and this, I think they have such a striking presence, a fearful presence, and even though they represent sex and everything that is part of our human experience, there is a solemn air about them. It's like, yes, enjoy your life, do what you need to do, have fun, that's what it's for. And the only thing they could really enjoy in slavery, if anything, was anything that was free, like sex. But you are accountable. When you cross over, you are accountable, and don't think you have the right to be evil to children or inflict harm. You are accountable, and these two are who we meet in the afterlife, and we are called out on it. So amazing presence. And like that, when I was in New Orleans going through a shopping centre, there was this massive painting of the Baron, and I went in and said, oh, is there one of Brigitte? Who? I'm like, oh, really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like, wow, okay, maybe the silence across her mouth is so symbolic for many things, but it also could be like, for the love of God, will somebody rip it off and speak about what we out there? So
I'm surprised. I'm surprised. I just assumed that she was equal.
No,
with the Baron. Well, obviously not.
Not yet. Hopefully, she's underused. I think she is a deity that just needs recognition and needs her time. And I really feel at this time there is no better time with, like I say, with displacement, with immigration, that facilitated her birth. That this has come back round for one side of the world, unfortunately, but and also for our own shadow work, for our own experiences of death and grief, and we can work with that, because the energy is very similar to Bridget, even though she is very, very different. And I'm not for one instance advocating voodoo. I think it's called voodooism, and probably even saying that wrong, and I mean no disrespect, because it is not my world, it is not something I have come across, but I would hope that my little book will just allow people to consider her outside of the how she is at Involk and as Catholic saint, and to see the beauty and depth that is within her, and to see the beauty in death as well, and in that essence of being returned back to the mother, to no matter what happens in life, that you are minded, that you are loved and safe when you cross over.
It's interesting you mentioned her being the only Loa with white skin and red hair. The little that I know about her, that was one of the striking features that I came across. That and the Maman Brigitte name, it gives, for me anyway, an obvious connection to Brigit that you couldn't really argue with.
You couldn't, but some people do argue, and that's absolutely fine. But I know myself how I work, and I know how when Bridget puts an idea into my head, it's for a reason. It is absolutely for a reason, and I know she wouldn't ask me to do something that is not in alignment with what she wants. And really, I just think she just needs to come out. She needs to be out into the world, and I'm hoping that the short book as an introduction will propel people to discover her and to appreciate her.
She is definitely fascinating. There is a power to her, isn't there? There is a very strong... No
she's
nonsense.
She's from the Catholic or from the Crown. Like, she is... I work with the Avalon tradition, so the wheel of the year, we're now at the western part of the wheel, which is we call it Brigid of Earth. And at this point, I personally work with Brigantia, because a territorial goddess, and it is keeping with Bridget. We'll be next moving into Samhain and working. I now have changed that to make it suit me, and I work with Maman Brigitte because she is the face of death and the face of Samhain for me. But she is not as ancient as the Cailleach. She's she is death, and the next part is winter, which is that germination period before the maiden re-emerges at Imbolc. But she is sexy, she is seductive, she is mysterious, she is powerful, she's a survivor, she is the experience of Haitian women and Irish women that ended up in Louisiana. Irish women were sent because there was no dowry, and off you go and make your own way. And they went with good luck and fecky type thing. I'll make my way here, and they did. They entered into working in the sector of being a domestic, which no other immigrant or the Americans wanted. Haitian women were coming in, and both Irish women and Haitian women, this was almost like the cross that was happening. 3 waves of Irish immigrants were arriving as Haitian immigrants were coming in after the Haitian Revolution. And both Haitian women and Irish women, their experience with their men was very, very similar. With agriculture out of the picture for Irish women, their men just had no pedestal to be put up on. They were in a strange city, they turned to drink, they abandoned their wives at that time, or died from alcoholism. And it was quite similar for Haitian women as well. So they found themselves either, okay, this is hardship, but it's not really either. We can find our voices here. We can become more than we would ever have been had we stayed in our countries. And this is the influence of Oya that had been brought from the Yoruba region to Haiti. She is the essence and energy of the marketplace. So for Haitian women, it was them at marketplaces, earning their own money, finding their voices, establishing their community. And for a lot of Irish women, they went as single women and chose not to marry and carve out their niche there as domestic servants. And they became quite wealthy also. So really, as Maman Brigitte evolved in Louisiana, so did women. They became quite empowered through her, through finding their voices and finding their footing in new soil, which is essentially what Brigitte is all about, is thriving in a brand new soil, just getting on with it. And, the past is over. This is what it is. We either cry about it or we get on with it. And that's the energy I feel with her. It's just where your heart is, what you've been trying to suppress. acknowledge it and get on with it. I'm here, but I'm not making you do it. It's a choice.
So you mentioned New Orleans and you visited for your research. Any wonderful stories other than finding pictures of the Baron and not Maman Brigitte?
No, it was pretty amazing. I personally can't write about something that I haven't connected with on the land.
Yeah,
I can't.
absolutely.
I just can't.
Yeah.
And that's why I really specified in my book, I don't know anything about voodoo. I haven't connected to Oya on that part of the world yet. I will, and I know this is coming down the line for me. But for Brigitte, I wanted to feel her there, and I also wanted to feel for my ancestors that would have taken the ships over and arrived at the Mississippi. So it was quite emotional, that in itself. And yeah, I went on a couple of tours, like cemetery tours and voodoo walking tours. And I was told about a voodoo shop that had a good reputation to go into. And it was very profound that when I went in, this beautiful lady emerged. She's a priestess, a Haitian priestess, an American lady that's a Haitian priestess. She owns the shop, Voodoo Authentica. And we had a really lovely moment. I was like a child in a candy shop, just asking her so many questions until I explained I was here to research Brigitte and could she tell me anything. And bless her, she gave me, she told me to come back and we would have a chat for an hour. And it was really beautiful to talk about the similarities and differences between Brigid of Ireland and Brigitte of Haiti and Louisiana. So that was really synchronistic, and I really felt guided by Bridget as well, because there is only so much you can take from books. And I didn't want to write a book based on someone else's opinion either, but it was a nice compliment. The two complemented each other. So it was wonderful. Yeah, it was amazing. The Deep South, that's always fascinated me. I also lived in Africa for a year when I was very, very young on an island between Mauritius and Madagascar where they spoke French and where voodoo was practiced. And I remember being absolutely blown away looking at a fella in his garden. I was terrified, but I was like, this is just nuts. It's amazing. Yeah, I'd love to go back, and I'd love to go now with my understanding and my thirst for knowledge. I haven't cracked it all with Maman Brigitte. I've touched the surface. I know I have. But it is allowing for other people to explore that. And it's giving me the opportunity to delve in even deeper in the future if she guides me to do that. And maybe it's just enough that she wants me to write about different aspects first before pulling me into a specific connection with her and going hell for leather with that. But amazing.
I don't think we ever experience everything with each deity though, do we? I think it's all, we're growing, we're evolving.
Oh, for sure.
And they do the same, I think. It's kind of...
Rachel, and I do think she's going to develop even again for the times that we're in right now. I mean, I really thought all the way back years ago, it's just Catholic saint or pagan goddess. I really had her boxed into two. And this is just, oh my goodness, how could I do that? Like, there is so much more to her, and that's not going to ever end. We'll be long gone and she'll still be evolving.
How do you think Maman Brigitte fits into the modern beliefs? I mean, you mentioned the immigration issues. Do you think she's making a kind of, I'm shouting, I'm out there because I'm needed now?
Yeah, I do think our world needs the energies of the dark goddesses. I really do. I think the nurturing has been appreciated and needed. But the energy of, like, I see injustice, I'm calling it out. I see pain, I feel pain, I'm shouting it out. And I think that energy for me is, when I immediately think of that, I think of Kali Ma. But because I'm dedicated to Bridget, Maman Brigitte is fascinating. And I need a role model. And this again is bringing me back to the Catholic Church. I didn't have a role model that would shout this out, who would say enough, or look to me and I will help you put down new roots, and I will not only help you grow and develop in strength, I'll help you to thrive in Louisiana, in the swampy soil of the Mississippi. Like, even in that, you can thrive. It's not only about survival. It is taking enjoyment wherever you can. So yes, I think at this point in time, she is very much needed, especially with, I don't know, with all the hatred that is happening, with all the displacement, families ripped apart. It is heartbreaking.
You talk about animal associations, and I love that animals are associated with deity and some symbols. Are there particular ones for Maman Brigitte, and why do you think they are connected?
I think they are connected because of where she resides. Her home is a graveyard. I have a newfound adoration for graveyards. I tend to randomly go in when I'm in places. Oh my God, it's the peace, and it's her presence that I just know she's there. But at night time is her time also. So the owl, in particular, the screech owl, is one of her animals. And this is, like, I wouldn't have ever said that I really connected to the owl. I was fascinated by it. But my animal is the deer and the stag in its various forms. But the owl came in quite strongly. And it was only by being in New Orleans when I was speaking to Kate, the Haitian priestess, that she told me the screech owl was definitely an animal of Brigitte, for the simple reason of the fact that Brigitte stands with Baron against injustice, with those that think they've gotten away with it, in particular those who have willfully harmed children. And the screech owl is almost like the piercing wail in the dead of the night to alert her, to draw her attention. And it's very symbolic, because Bridget, as goddess, is said to have invented the whistle for the protection of women, that if they were assaulted travelling by themselves at night, they could blow on the whistle and help come. So it's quite similar. Fascinating. And, I just think the owl it really epitomizes her. It's the whole turning of the head and scanning the graveyard. This is what I feel with her, protecting the gravestones, looking out, just being there, being hidden but present. It's a powerful image with her. Very powerful.
And I always think of owls as wisdom as well.
Yeah. Very wise, yes. And very pure also. I got to meet an owl just before I went to, where did I go? I went to America this summer. Mystic South. I went there to present on Maman Brigitte, and it was just a week beforehand in Ireland. I got to meet an owl at a heritage park. I was the only one there to see the birds. There was falcons and there was an owl, and the man asked me, did I want to meet a little screech owl? Amazing. And he went up and brought out a little baby one. Oh my God, it was so cute. It just piercing eyes. It was just like, oh my God, like what an amazing animal, and how perfect for her.
Does she have any symbols as well? Should people be looking out for any specific signs, symbols, messages that will be her trying to get their attention?
I think when you have your shadow and you need to work on it, allowing her to connect that with her and see how she best guides you to begin your own healing on it through death and through all the grief that we go through. She is there and she is available anytime. But the symbols I would associate with her would be anything connected to death. So we've got the coffin, we've got skulls, and the top hat associated with Baron and with her.
Love a top hat.
And the king as well. Anything. Her colours are black and purple in particular, and there is an element of green with her. I think that's coming in from Bridget, or that's how I feel it also. Yeah, I offer her, whenever I have a beer, and I'm Irish, I do love a beer, on my altar, whether it's Brigantia or Bridget or Maman Brigitte, I would give them if I'm having a beer at the weekend, they also have a tipple. So it's rum or anything fiery or peppery to offer to her and then put it out onto the earth afterwards. But cigarettes, even as symbols to her. I mean, she's badass. She enjoys what
I can see her with a cigar. That image fits.
Yeah, she's great. And even
she's a rock and roll deity, absolutely.
Yeah, and she doesn't care. It's just like, yeah, whatever. Like me or hate me, I'm still me. And it is that crassness about her, but there is such warmth within that crassness as well. I just think she's great. She's great.
Yeah, I think she's a fascinating deity. Definitely energies that we could probably all do with more of. Are there any particular rituals or actions that are associated or used for her?
I would have heard of actions and rituals in voodoo, but because I don't practice voodoo, I don't really want to promote it because I don't want to lead people into... I really think for every religion or a spiritual practice, there needs to be caution, and you need to enter into it under the guidance of somebody who has experience. I know from talking to Kate, this blew my mind, but in Ireland we associate the cow with Bridget. And when I mentioned this to Kate, she was like, no way, because as one practice they have, they take the tongue of a cow and nail it to a graveyard and stick and pins and nails into it. And it's to counteract anybody talking about somebody. So yeah, I was like, no, I can't really see myself doing that, but I appreciate
that's hoodoo.
It comes from. Yeah. Wow.
But it makes sense though.
Cow, like it could be the tongue of any other animal. And again, it is all linking back. I believe you got to do what feels right for you. And for me, to evoke her energy, I really like music, as in dark goddess music that just gets her energy and just call to her. I think I've always remembered a story about the guy that invented Pilates. This is really random, but he was in a prison cell, I believe, and just developed this practice. And I've read a lot on past lives, how people are remembering when they used to be surgeons or doctors, and then, with wars breaking out, they had access to nothing. So what do we have, no matter what happens to us? Because we can always have our faith, even if the world is turned upside down, which it is. So I just feel a heart-to-heart connection and a way of calling her in, writing an invocation, writing something that works for you is enough to draw her in, and she will create that magic then we're in the area that you're in need of healing. So I don't practice voodoo. I did go to a voodoo ceremony quite recently. It was pretty cool. And it's definitely something that has aroused, I think, some sort of memory of being in a community in a past life. But do I practice voodoo with Maman Brigitte? No, I don't. I treat her the same way I treat Brigantia and Bridget. I make my offerings, I pray, I open the wheel at the specific times of the year. I open the wheel every day and I connect to the aspect of Bridget at that point of the wheel. And they get my attention that time. And I can do that in many ways. Like I say, writing poetry, just invoking her, just talking to her. It doesn't have to be very grand, but a sincere intention makes a good connection, I think.
It's interesting you talking about the wheel, because I work with the Cailleach. She is my main goddess, but I work with Sulis. But they are opposing. So the autumn and winter for me is the Cailleach is stronger. The spring and summer is Sulis. Do you find that with Bridget, you mentioned her different facets? Obviously, Maman Brigitte is Samhain. That's that couldn't be anything else, really, could it? Are there all sorts of different facets of Bridget for all of the turning of the wheel?
Yeah, there is for sure. And again, this is what prompted me to research my first book on her as Celtic goddess, because information about her mythology and lore fuel how I feel she is in the various aspects. So at the moment we're entering into Samhain, so Maman Brigitte. After that we're at Yuletide, so this is the nothingness but the allness before she is reborn as the virginal maiden. This is me. This is how I made the wheel my own with Bridget. Fire, then, as we come on to spring, is, oh my goodness, there's so much with this. There is the inspiration, there is the spoken word, there is guts, there is pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. The lover aspect is really beautiful as well between maiden and mother, because we have her in her lower saint, community foundress of women that wanted to live together in spirituality, and she's said to have been partner to Darlukta, daughter of the god Lug. So there's so much here. I love this time of her. It's about passion, it's about breaking out, moving out of your comfort zone, but it's a very fiery red energy at this time. Water then as well, looking at her in her connection to wells, looking at her the flow of my life. There's so much with water as well. It's like starting into the other world. Then the mother aspect as great mother goddess is really beautiful. The queen aspect between mother and death is Brigantia, which is empowerment before the death again, and so the cycle. So yes, there's various colours connected to Bridget, various foods, various customs, and yeah, she's just so much more than Imbolc and the saint, really. And even within Imbolc and the saint, there is so much to her.
Perfect.
There's probably a lot of watering on there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think Maman Brigitte is fascinating, and I have always thought there was a connection between her and Bridget, the name, the hair colour, the whole shebang. I think it's fascinating to make the connections.
Because nothing is pure, is it? I mean, every deity has been blended. That's what we do. We don't stay put. We are constantly in flux. And if you are forced to migrate or if you're displaced, I mean, you lose everything, but you don't lose your faith. And that has to manifest in a different way when you're somewhere new. Like, we have a saying in Ireland, if you're abroad, you become a plastic paddy, as in you're singing all the songs, and when you come home, you don't care about it. But it's a way when you're out of your familiar environment, it must come through. And if it is met with another influence, that blends for that period in time. And then that either evolves or dissolves or whatever it is. But there's no deity, I believe, to be totally pure, except if we go right back to the great African mother, or we're going right back. But I do think everything is blended, and that really makes me feel humble, because I've no right to tell people it's wrong, it's right.
That's the beauty of modern paganism, is that you can make it your own pathway.
Well, as long as you're respectful and you are not making up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No, I totally agree. There has to be some validity, and there has to be some accountability for what you're saying. And otherwise we become what I say I hate. If I am trying to say she's not Catholic, I become the worst trait of Catholicism is trying to push my viewpoint down someone else's neck. I don't have a right to do that. I just have a right and her blessing to provide various aspects, and that people, as they grow and change, work with different aspects of her. But I really need to reiterate, you can't, I don't think you can anyway, discover many aspects until you have a sound working knowledge and a sense of comfort and familiarity and reverence for your deity. And that is a daily practice, no matter who you work with.
It's respect, isn't it? It is respect.
For sure.
Yeah.
You can't be asking all the time. It's just it's putting her out there, and this is why we're here. This is what we're doing. We're giving the goddess a voice. We're bringing her back. She was never gone, but we're not afraid to speak about her now. Yeah. Which is wonderful.
So that's Maman Brigitte. Your new project, you've got Brigantia coming out as well at some point.
July, yeah. It seems like ages away.
It'll come round quick enough.
Yeah.
But another connection, more connections to Bridget.
Yeah. The other world I'm working on as well at the moment, which is proving to be a very deep dive into a lot of stuff, fairy faith, everything. Like, she's so present in all of that also. And really, this was my first introduction with Bridget, even before Goddess. So yeah, I think this is possibly my final look at Bridget. I think I do feel after this is done that she'll take me. I don't know. Do you know what? I actually don't, because this is how my head works. It never stops. I was doing some work on it the other day and I thought, this is it. And then it's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool though if I did this? I was like, no, forget it.
All part of the journey.
Yes, for sure. Oh, thanks, Rachel.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Absolutely fascinating. I think Maman Brigitte definitely needs more limelight. We need her energies. We all need her energies. Amazing. And the connection to Bridget, as I say, makes perfect sense. Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much to everyone that's watching, listening. Do join us again next time on Pagan Portal Podcast.
You have been listening to the Pagan Portal Podcast, a Moonbooks Publishing production. For more information, please visit our website.